Which one would you like to do first? The gown or the parrot?
Let's do the Swift Parrot.
Okay, and I will mute it just because I don't know if the Miss Earth song is
copyright
struck. So I'll add it. You can talk us through it. We can have a look. Let's see how this works here.
So this was the national, not the national costume, but the so each candidate had to pick an animal that they wanted to represent. So this was the fauna costume. And so I picked the Swift Parrot, which is a critically endangered parrot. It's the world's fastest flying parrot. It goes at like 88 kilometers an hour or some crazy speed. And so there's only about 750 left. Reports saying even less. So they're very critically endangered. They're only in Tasmania and sort of southeast Australia, so like Melbourne sort of area. And they're very impacted because of the logging and also the sugar gliders that were introduced there in the 1800s. And so the reason I picked the Swift Parrot is, people say I look like Taylor Swift. So I'm like, excellent, Swift Parrot. Hopefully people will remember the fauna that I picked. And if people remember the name, then there is still a chance for them to help me with it and help, spread the word about the bird, as I have continued to say, because, they could definitely become extinct within the next 10 years, which is just a very sad example of a lot of the Australian fauna at the moment, which is very critically endangered and endangered, especially wasn't helped by the bushfires of 2019.
Yeah.
So I just, I was going to pick, like the koala or the kangaroo or something more iconic, but I just really think that these little birds and these little animals that aren't very popular in Australia really need international recognition as well, so that hopefully the government will put some legislation in place, help to stop that logging and rehabilitate the Swift Parrot.
I like the thinking behind it, tying it in with your lookalike and then spread the word for the bird. Can you tell us a little bit about how the costume actually came together? Because whenever I see costumes that look like this, I'm like, where like how did that conversation start? It's like you approach a designer and say, I want you to dress me up as a parrot, and they'd be like, prank call.
This was designed by Renè, and he is so talented. His work's actually going into the Powerhouse Museum next year.
Oh wow.
He's done lots and lots of costumes for like Mardi Gras and things like that. So very extravagant, beautiful, detailed costumes. And so he was already brought on when I won Miss Earth Australia as the designer. And so he actually had already sort of had a design where he wanted to do a black cockatoo. But I told him like, I've already picked my fauna and I want it to be a Swift Parrot. So that was very easy to sort of transition it being a bird to a bird. And so all of the feathers here are made from this like foam that he has that he uses in a lot of things. And he just like cuts it to make that feather effect. And he puts it all, he like glues it all onto this like piece that was here and like this amazing headpiece that was massive. Like it's huge. Like it looks big in the video, but like it's even bigger in person. And so that was really beautiful. And then we really wanted to use the chiffon as the wings so that we could have that sort of like flying effect, of like it being like about movement, because the Swift Parrot is such a fast bird. That's its main thing. Tried to jump off a tree. It didn't really look good. So we just went for twirling around on the floor instead.
If you're dressed as a parrot, you're not actually a parrot. You don't have the power of flight. I was going to say, how on earth did you take it to the Philippines? But this was filmed in Australia. Because the first thing I looked at this is like, how on earth did you get that out in the suitcases? How tall is the headpiece? It looks like a good foot and a bit above your head.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the measurements of my head, but like it's like it's big. Like I had to lie it down in the back seat of my car, and it pretty much really took up the whole thing because like the feather at the very top, you can't bend it or anything. So you've got to just lay it down like a baby and just, keep it there. But that big blue check on it is very close attention to detail, which I really appreciate, because the Swift Parrot, even though it's predominantly green and red, it's got those blue markings and those yellow markings, all along the face and under the wings, which is sort of what makes it iconic. And then as you can see at the bottom there on the skirt, we've got the longer feathers, because the Swift Parrot is also known for its super long tail at the back of it. So Renè was really good at keeping all of that attention to detail. This took him 700 hours to create, and it's just so beautiful, and it was just so shimmery. And we were filming it at the park, and people were walking past like, what on earth is going on? You know? And I'm just like, hi. I think I might have scared a 5-year-old by accident, but but
That's great.
okay.
So there's
Yeah.
a 5-year-old out there somewhere who's going to have
Like, what is
PTSD
this?
about parrots.
Yeah.
There are a few people out there actually who are terrified of birds, but I'm not one of them. But
Well,
so
that's good. This will be a very
700,
awful segment for you.
700 hours, huh? That's something.
Yeah, so it's very, very limited. You know, the biggest problem is logging, obviously, because the swift parrots only breed in Tasmania. So they're a migratory bird, much like the orange belly parrot here. So they breed in Tassie, and then in winter they come over to the mainland to eat and escape the harsh Tasmanian winter. And every time they go back, they're noticing more and more trees are cut down so they can't actually build their nests. And then when they do finally build their nests, sugar gliders come and eat their eggs and often kill the female parrots that are roosting there in the process. So even though sugar gliders are native to Australia, they were never in Tasmania until they were introduced. Right. And so because the swift parrots only breed in Tasmania, that's where that sort of clashing of environment occurs. So, you know, there's a lot of great organizations, not-for-profits and things out there trying to protect the swift parrots, but you know, you just can't stop things like logging, which are just so, there's a lot of business behind it, and there's a lot of, you know, permits and stuff that they just can't get around. So hopefully by bringing this attention on a more international scale, and do have a petition on my Instagram page at the moment that you can click on in the bio to help sign, to hopefully bring more awareness as well. Hopefully there can be something done about it. Once I get back to Australia, I'd really love to visit Melbourne or Tasmania as well and just be able to see one in person, because that would just be so beautiful. I've actually got a swift parrot pin on my sash here, which I got from a local Tasmanian family-owned business, and so that was really cool that they have those because it's such a rare bird.
Yeah, well, that's very cool. I remember because I was rewatching our interview from last time. You said that you wanted there to be a story behind. You actually mentioned that you might get garbage from the sea and just stick it together in a dress. So I'm glad we didn't go with that one. And in fact, you went with this. I think this is better than garbage from the sea.
Yes. I mean, like, look, Renè is very talented, and I wasn't going to say, no, Renè, I don't want your beautiful designs. I want to get some trash and stick it on.